Part 2. 12 weeks to change the world. Jersey's sacrifice on D-Day and in the Battle of Normandy. The numbers involved were simply staggering. The invasion of Normandy on 6th of June 1944 was by far the greatest ever combined seaborne and airborne military operation in history. The invasion fleet comprised nearly 7,000 vessels, including more than 4,000 landing craft. The Allied air forces assembled around 11,000 aircraft to support the landings and prevent enemy reinforcements reaching the coastline. Nearly 1,600 troops crossed the English Channel in ships and troop-carrying aircraft on D-Day alone. By August 1944, that number had swollen to 2 million as Allied reinforcements poured into Normandy to overcome stubborn enemy resistance. Among them was a significant sprinkling of men from Jersey. By the victorious Normandy campaign's end, at least 20 of them had fallen in one of history's most important battles. Their sacrifice, and that of thousands of other Allied troops, would ultimately pave the way for our island's liberation just under 1 year later. The British Army had begun making plans to invade the continent soon after its inglorious bundling out of France in June 1940. It had slowly rebuilt shattered formations, filling them out with millions of conscripts, armed with new weapons as British industry adjusted to the wartime demands. Among this host of virgin soldiers was a sizable number from Jersey. Some had volunteered when the war broke out. Most had evacuated from the island in June 1940 as the Germans approached. Together with a number of pre-war regulars, they spent 4 years training intensively in preparation for the unavoidable cross-channel assault. The Allied plan, Operation Overlord, called for a massive invasion with troops from Britain, Canada and America landing on 5 beaches along a 50-mile stretch of the Normandy coast, codenamed Sword, Juno, Gold, Omaha and Utah. Airborne forces arriving by either parachute or glider would seize ground to the east and west of the beach landings. D-Day itself would be about getting these troops ashore and keeping them there. Waves of follow-up men, tanks and artillery landing subsequently would press forward into the verdant countryside beyond. The ultimate Allied goal was a breakout from Normandy and pursuit across France and into Germany. The ultimate goal of those they would face in Normandy was understandably the opposite. Since overrunning much of Western Europe in 1940, the Germans had been anticipating some form of Allied counter-invasion. By the spring of 1944, they knew it would come that summer, just not where it would happen. Normandy was considered an unlikely location. Nevertheless, the Germans made considerable effort to reinforce their defences along the Normandy coast, positioning additional troops in the area and adding concrete fortifications, barbed wire and mines. Would these defensive efforts prove effective, or would the Allied forces prevail? Both sides waited with bated breath on the eve of D-Day. The invasion on 6th of June 1944 began with waves of Allied bombers attacking enemy positions along the Normandy coast. In most locations, Omaha Beach being the one notable exception, the bombing proved highly effective, but at a cost. Among those airmen lost on D-Day was pilot officer Alan Boyle, the eldest son of John and Florence, who lived at Bagot in St. Clement. The 21-year-old former Victoria College pupil died when his Boston Light bomber went down over Le Havre. With German defences softened up by both air attacks and a powerful naval bombardment, the first troops stormed ashore from landing craft at 6:30 a.m. The airborne forces were already down by then, having dropped in the early hours of the morning. Those arriving on the beaches had a mixed experience. The Americans suffered heavy casualties on Omaha Beach, but only light losses at Utah. On Sword, Juno and Gold, British and Canadian forces crossed the beaches swiftly in most cases and pressed on inland, though not without casualties, among them 2 soldiers from Jersey. Private Arthur Bellow of the Green Howards had attended St. Mark's School and worked for Renouf Ironmongery in Halkett Place before the war. He died aged 32 when his unit came ashore on Gold Beach. And Corporal William Sosi, the son of Percy and Lizzie of Gorey and husband of Hilda, who had served in Italy and died as the Hampshire Regiment also landed on Gold Beach. 3 men from Jersey are among the 4,500 Allied servicemen killed on D-Day. This sacrifice, which could have been much higher, was the price paid for an outstanding and resounding victory. The Allies were ashore and determined to stay. However, the battle from Normandy was far from won. Arriving German reinforcements, coupled with logistical challenges, limited Allied movement inland in the first few days following 6th of June 1944. There were successes, including capturing Cherbourg at the end of June, but the Normandy campaign was soon a battle of attrition, requiring heavy fighting to grind the Allies forward. Casualties increased with every hedgerow stormed, every captured village and town. In addition to those killed on D-Day, June saw at least 5 more Jersey deaths, including Private Harry Baudet, son of the famous artist Henry Baudet, who created many of Jersey's beautiful stained glass windows. 7 more islanders would fall in July, many victims of the intense fighting around the major Normandy city of Caen. Among these was well-known local footballer Private Alfred Varden, who had joined the Hampshire Regiment's Jersey Battalion soon after evacuating the island in 1940, and married Ruth while serving in the Isle of Wight. The battles around Caen and sacrifices made there were pivotal in winning final victory in Normandy. As the Germans concentrated their best troops against threatening British and Canadian forces around that city, American armies to the west finally broke through stubborn enemy defences south of Saint-Lô. Pouring through the ruptured front, General George Patton's spearheads swept into Brittany and swung east behind the German army around Caen. A British breakthrough there led to the Allies joining hands near Falaise, trapping thousands of enemy troops in a hellish pocket that resulted in a mass German surrender. It was bitter and costly fighting. Among those killed in August 1944 were at least 5 further islanders. One was Major John Krill, son of the Constable of St Clement, who had been slated for high office in Jersey and whose brother Peter Krill would become the island's bailiff. By the time of Major Krill's death at the end of August, the Allies had captured Paris and driven across the Seine towards the Low Countries and Germany. Behind them lay a liberated but shattered Normandy. Alongside thousands of Allied and German dead were as many as 39 civilians killed in the pre-battle bombing and during the fighting. It was a heavy price to pay for freedom. A short distance away in occupied Jersey, islanders watched, listened, and wondered whether their liberation would demand a similar payment.
Thank you for listening to Temps Passé. This episode was brought to you by Bailiwick Podcasts and the Jersey Evening Post. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. And sign up for a digital subscription with the JEP to get access to its rich online archive and learn more about the island's history. Thanks again for listening.